After Democrats captured control of the governorship and
I love this man. Welshie is my goat, dude. He's actually awesome. I don't know how the f he didn't get fired. Like, he's actually shockingly resilient, and in spite of his
Sunday, August the 11th, 86 days until Election Day, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have just wrapped up their first tour of swing states as the Democratic Party's official nominees for president and vice president, and it was a tour for the history books. According to the campaign, more than 12,000 people packed into an arena in Las Vegas last night to hear from the Democratic nominee and her running mate, and that's just the number of people who were actually able to get into the rally. About 4,000 other people were turned away after local law enforcement closed off the venue early because people were getting sick while waiting in line outside in the 109-degree heat. Nevada was the fifth and final stop of Harris.
God is punishing you. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to say this again and again. God is punishing you. Stop living in Nevada. Stop living in Arizona. God is punishing you for living there. Get out if you have the chance.
Harris and Walz's first set of campaign rallies together. Since Harris announced that she's chosen Walz to be her running mate just 5 days ago, a total of more than 60,000 supporters have attended their rallies across.
Hello, bro, you live in California? Dog, I live in Los Angeles, which is like only good for one reason and one reason only. Los Angeles has nothing except for the weather. Are you kidding me? That's the only good thing in LA, bro. It sucks. Everything else sucks. This entire city is ass, okay? No sidewalks, constant earthquakes, okay? Everything is so unimaginably expensive. Maybe not as bad as New York, but still pretty expensive. That is typical transplant talk. Dude, I've been living here for basically, it's not for longer than I've lived anywhere else, but it's close to it at this point. There's a point where you move beyond transplant. I love Los Angeles, okay? I do. That's why I live here. That's why I bought a house here, okay? You can't call me a transplant at that point. Like, come on, dog. I've lived here for like 13 years. What the f do you mean? It's a city. It could be so much better. Go home. We don't want you anyways. Transplant. That's so funny. Literal transplant talk. Okay, bro. Don't make me come into your town, okay, and purchase more properties because I will do it. You understand me? Do not make me gentrify your neighborhood, okay? You talk this, I will come over there. I'll buy a house. Yeah. All right, chill. You better watch out. You better watch out. Before you know it, you're going to turn a corner. You see Erewhon being built over a massive parking lot. It's over. Game over. Anyway.
5 of the 6 most important swing states this election cycle. The pair have parted.
Spoken like a true transplant? Exactly. Dude, that's why I said Erewhon. I didn't even say Whole Foods. That's like the peak. Once you see the Erewhon is so over, dude, there is no coming back from that. No one knows what Erewhon is, rich boy. Exactly. Exactly. It's like, it's done. You're done. You're cooked.
Ways for the time being. Walz is back home in Minnesota. Harris will join Nancy Pelosi in San Francisco today for a major fundraiser that's poised to add another $12 million to her campaign coffers. The launch of the Harris-Walz ticket has been a tremendous success that's lifted many Democrat spirits ahead of their national convention, which is in Chicago next week. Enthusiastic rallies have really irked one person in particular, Donald Trump, who's desperate to stop her rapid rise in the presidential race. For the better part of the last month, he's been trying and failing to employ an effective strategy to blunt her momentum. If you've paid any attention to his social media posts or public remarks lately, you can see him testing out different tactics and attack lines and nicknames for Harris. Recently, Trump and his allies have latched onto a new approach, depicting Harris and Walz as too extreme to lead the country. They've called them, quote, dangerously liberal. Trump has even referred to the pair as Comrade Harris and Comrade Walz, insinuating that they have communist ties. On Truth Social yesterday, he wrote in all caps that Harris is, quote, a radical left lunatic. These attacks have ramped up over the past week after Walz joined the Democratic ticket. It's less of a direct criticism of Harris's record and more of an effort to tie her to the progressive policies that Walz has championed and recently signed into law in Minnesota. After Democrats captured control of the governorship and...
I love this man. Welshie is my goat, dude. He's actually awesome. I don't know how he didn't get fired. Like, he's actually shockingly resilient. And in spite of his support for Palestinian emancipation, he has not been fired yet.
And both chambers of the state legislature after the 2022 election.
Yesterday, I went to the Protest Commons fundraiser at the Fairmont Hotel here in San Francisco. Apparently, the lowest entry ticket to be able to attend was $500K. Ugh.
Elections, lawmakers in Minnesota.
She is still, however, cooking on the small ticket donors as well. She's cooking Trump on that front.
Minnesota proceeded to enact an ambitious set of bills.
That's not true. It was $3,300. Libophonics, dude. Libophonics hooked on phonics so incredibly in the pocket for Kamala. Oh my God, he got so excited. He got Fossabot clapped. I know his ass was there. Libophonics attended, chat. He is so dialed. He is so lasered. He is riding with Kamala Harris so hard.
That sought to help families and workers and slow the effects of climate change. Some of the policies, pardon me.
I wasn't there. I'm not that rich. We know you're not that rich, bro. At the top of the hour, I ain't seen you gifted subs. We know, okay? That's right. The real people's leader here has fundraisers at the top of the hour. It's a 3-minute ad break. You either watch the ad or the entry fee is $6 or free if you have a Twitch Prime. Megaphonics gifted 5 gifted subs. What? Amazon's Like a Dragon Yakuza TV show cast revealed that they've never played the games. We wanted to do our own version. No. Oh, no. This is devastating. Sillerix, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Oh my God, bro. Oh my God. This is my personal 9/11. Not ready for the 50 Asman video saying it's woke lib's fault that has happened. Oh no. I said, this is my personal 9/11. We didn't deserve this. The writers and directors that played the games, they didn't want the actors copying the game characters. Stop getting clickbaited. I still think they should. I'm going to delete it, but I still think they should have been invested in the project. Start of HasanAbi right-wing pivot. Start. I've been there, dude. Skull 0801. Thank you for the 5 get the subs.
The Democrats passed as part of that set of bills include providing free meals to students, free college at some of the state's public universities for students who come from families with an income of under $80,000, paid sick leave, paid family leave, and paid medical leave, a child tax credit, one of the largest in the country, a set of policies to shift the state away from fossil fuels. And he also took action to help Minnesota establish a public option in the future to allow all residents to buy into the state's health insurance program. Minnesota has also enacted some of the strongest protections for reproductive rights anywhere in the country. It's established automatic voter registration. It's subsidized the cost of electric vehicles. None of these things are radical. Many developed nations have already enacted many of these same policies because they are sensible. They ease the burdens that many families and working class people experience on a daily basis. America is the one that's out of step with most developed countries by not already having many of these policies in place. Some of these policies are popular across partisan lines. For instance, a poll commissioned by the independent Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont and recently released by Data for Progress found that the majority of likely voters in 6 swing states, regardless of party affiliation, said that they support reestablishing the child tax credit.
63% of Republicans, dude. 63% of Republicans, 66% of independents. I'm nutting.
As Senator Sanders wrote in a recent op-ed for The Guardian, campaigning on an economic agenda that speaks to the needs of working families is a winning formula for Kamala Harris and for Democrats in November. Indeed, it is the formula that could give Harris the sort of victory that sweeps in a Democratic Senate and a House and allows her to govern in the best tradition of Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal and Joe Biden's Build Back Better program, end quote. Joining me now is the independent senator from Vermont, Bernie Sanders. He's the chair of the Senate Health, Education, and Labor and Pensions Committee. He's a member of the Veterans Affairs, Budget, and Energy and Natural Resources Committee. Senator, great to see you again. Thank you for being with us. I just wanted to tackle this because you're somebody who has fought for many of these policies. I don't think you particularly care that people call you leftist and radical and communist and whatever the case is. But I think it's time to just put it out there that that's just not true. In these, you may be, but that's not true of these policies, right? They are mainstream policies in a lot of countries.
All right, Ali, let me tell you what drives me a little bit nuts. We have campaigns where candidates go around attacking each other, and the corporate media gets into political gossip. You know, we don't talk about what's happening to working families. We don't talk about sensible solutions, which, as you indicate, already exist in countries all over the world. In many ways, we are the outlier. I am talking to you right now from Burlington, Vermont. 50 miles north of us is a country called Canada, not a radical communist country. Somehow in Canada, spending 1/2 as much per capita on health care as we do, provide quality care.
His messaging discipline is so far, bro. He has never stopped saying the same things for like 700 years, dude. So that's why. Like, he is just not, bro. It's like, obviously, I'm not on the same boat at all because I've only been a professional political commentator for the past 10 years. But yeah, there's a reason why I can pull fucking videos of mine from like 2016, 2017, 2018, articles from way back when, and it's the exact same shit I'm saying because America is delusional and refuses to fix the fucking glaringly obvious problems. And the arguments are always the same as well.
Every man, woman, and child in this country. And meanwhile, their life expectancy is better than ours is. Their healthcare outcomes are better than ours is. So the question of providing healthcare to all people, not a radical idea, something that most Americans support. We did a poll, as you indicate, and we know that in America today, you got a whole lot of senior citizens who are struggling. In fact, half the seniors in America are trying to get by on $30,000 or less. Overwhelming 70% plus support for expanding Medicare to cover dental, hearing, and vision, including a strong majority of Republicans. Expanding Social Security benefits by $2,400 by lifting the cap, which now exists, so that the wealthy pay more into the Social Security Trust Fund, supported by 70% of the American people. Demanding the wealthy stop paying and large corporations stop paying their fair share of taxes, supported by over 70% of the American people. Raising the minimum wage to a living wage, widely supported. So on all of these issues that Trump calls far left or communist, well, I don't know, maybe we're a far left country, I don't know. But these are common sense issues that working class families support.
In fact, let me just make the argument that some of these things are conservative, because if you are going to pay half as much for health care and get better outcomes, right? I mean, that's pro money, that's pro business, that's pro everybody, right? We pay less for more outcome, and that's what you're talking about here in almost all these cases.
Hey, Ali, don't get me going onto health care, because we'll go on for a few hours, but the insanity of not having enough doctors, not having enough nurses, not having enough dentists.
That's why it's so funny when motherfuckers are like, oh, in Canada, they're having a crisis with like not enough doctors. It's like, bitch, we're having a crisis with not enough doctors. Like bro, there are so many parts of this country, ironically enough, where a lot of right wingers live, rural areas where they just do not have a primary care physician in like a 100-mile region. Okay, we're talking about like doing medevacs in an effort to get people the adequate health care that they need, like helicopters have to come in. We literally have devolved so dramatically. We have done like the reverse Cuba. Like one of the first things is like socialist leaders do after a successful revolution is immediately bring to the countryside some of these amenities that exist in like big city crowded centers of population. We're going in the fucking, you are so wrong about Cuba though, lol. I know, it's terrible. It's the worst. I know, it's so bad.
It's not having enough pharmacists in the richest country.
Like the situation in Cuba is literally only bad, not due to mismanagement, but due to a fucking embargo that we have placed upon them since the revolution. Okay, that's the only reason why the situation is bad in Cuba. That's it. We have starved Cuba since its inception. So anything that they do, like having a better life expectancy than the United States of America, or making innovations in the field of medicine, anything they do on that front is in spite of the crippling sanctions.
In the history of the world, and having a system designed to make huge profits for the insurance companies and the drug companies, you know, that to me is pretty crazy stuff. So if Trump wants to attack Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, because they believe that health care is a human right. Go for it, Donald Trump. Every time you open your mouth on that issue, you're going to lose more and more support in America.
Do you think their lack of internet access due to the embargo too? No, I think their lack of internet access is directly due to them being in the ass cheek, a tiny island nation in the ass cheeks of the largest fucking most bloodthirsty empire that the world has ever seen, that has its tentacles in every fucking person's business, that also simultaneously has, again, waged economic and sometimes direct war against this fucking tiny island. So that's the reason. It's not a good thing. I don't agree with it, but I understand where it's coming from, especially when you consider that, like, the United States of America in times of need have also created genuine restrictions, okay? Sometimes not even during times of need. The American government has enforced incredible repressions on free speech. As a matter of fact, this is not a time of need. Look to the way that they fucking treat pro-Palestinian students, for example, okay? Like, what are you talking about? Political repression, free speech repression is a staple in countries that are constantly under attack by much larger forces. This man has been edged by Dem candidates for decades. Let him not already give him affordable health care. Anyway.
We have seen throughout this election, and basically through a lot of elections, that no matter what you think about democracy and all these other things, the economy tends to be a leading issue. There are two ways to approach this. You can talk about what the Biden-Harris administration has done on the economy, but a lot of that stuff, though interesting, is long-term, right? The semiconductors and infrastructure. This concept of here's what I'm going to do for you, sort of like Tim Walz has done in Minnesota. We're going to do these things nationally. Do you think there's a way to make that a winning formula in the swing states that you've been talking about?
Absolutely. I think two things. I think what Harris-Walz have got to do is talk with pride about what, President Biden has accomplished and the vice president have accomplished. They're real important accomplishments. But second of all, I think we got to go back to 1936 and Franklin Delano Roosevelt and acknowledge the reality. Be honest about it, that in America today, we have more income and wealth inequality than we have ever had in the history of this country. You got three people on top owning more wealth.
Why do you think they're pushing this message now? Bro, it's Bernie Sanders. He's never stopped pushing this message. There's never been a moment in his fucking 800 years in office where he has stopped pushing this message. What do you mean now? Like, regardless of his, regardless of, öyle mi? Ağır galiba sipariş ediyor.
Than the bottom.
Love the idea of universal healthcare, but could the U.S. really afford European-style universal healthcare? That's so funny. Yeah, dude. The wealthiest nation on earth could not stand to have cheaper healthcare overall. Like, did you not hear what he just said? Countries with universal healthcare, some kind of universal healthcare, literally have better results overall and like better healthcare outcomes overall. And also they get to do it for cheaper. It's the mediators in between in the form of insurance and the for-profit element of healthcare that makes it so goddamn costly. We pay so much more than everyone else.
Bottom half of American society. Acknowledge the fact that we are the only major country not to have health care for all. Acknowledge the reality that we have a tax system skewed to benefit the very, very rich. Acknowledge the reality that we have in Washington, I'm almost ashamed to admit this, a $7.25 an hour federal minimum wage.
He's not getting glazed by regular fucking MSNBC commentators. He's getting glazed by Ali Welshi, who also is like pro-Palestine too.
When we need a living wage. Acknowledge those realities and say, hey, when we get into office and give us a Democratic Senate, give us a Democratic House, we are going to take on powerful corporate interests and pass legislation which benefits working families.
I just pulled out my calculator here, $7.25. Let's assume you're lucky enough to just work 40 hours a week. That's $290 a week. Let's multiply that for 52 weeks. $15,080 is what $7.25 as a minimum wage gets you. I invite anybody to try and live off of that.
Right. And let me just say this. I know the Republican Party is trying to change their views. They're now the party of the working class. That is total nonsense. I brought up the minimum wage. It was too low. I had to do it. $15 an hour. I would go higher than that. You know how many Republicans? Zero. You know how many Republicans on my committee we got to support the PRO Act, which would make it easier for workers to join unions? Zero. So these guys will stand, as they always have, with the billionaire class.